The views and opinions expressed by the following program are those of the host, guest, and callers and are not necessarily those of this station or the Webster Rockhill Ministries, its management, or other host or underwriting sponsors. Programs presented on KWRH-LP are for educational and entertainment purposes only.
Welcome back to In Tune. This is Arnold Stricker with Mark Langston. We're having a good time here. We're having a great time, and we're going to have a better time because we're going to be talking to a very important gentleman. Matter of fact, you can't see me right now, and our Facebook live stream just blew up, I guess because of my wonderful expression on my face. But I'm wearing blue today. I have totally blue on. We talked about this in the first hour a little bit because it's an important day to recognize colorectal cancer. It's the Wear Blue Day. This is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. And on the phone, we have Michael Sapienza, who's the Chief Executive Officer of the Colorectal Cancer Alliance. Michael, welcome to In Tune.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you have a particular story. Actually, before I begin, let me say, when you need to go, you just tell me, okay? Because I don't want to monopolize your time, but I do want to monopolize your time in this aspect to let us know about this important area because I'm a survivor. Back in 2007, I had my first colonoscopy and discovered 3 polyps, had 11.5 inches of my colon removed. That was it. I was very fortunate. Some of my friends and colleagues who I know have had stage 3 and stage 4, some had to go more aggressive treatment, and a couple actually did pass away. So you have a story of your own. Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, 2006, I was actually living in Miami Beach, Florida, performing, with an orchestra there. And my mom and my dad called me one morning, and it was very odd because, normally both of them wouldn't call me on the phone. And my mom said, we hit a bump in the road. And to make a long story short, she was diagnosed with late-stage colon cancer at the age of 56. Fast forward about 2.5 years, and unfortunately, she passed away from the disease on Mother's Day in 2009. So, our family at that point kind of, looked at what was out there from a research standpoint, from a support standpoint, from actually getting people screened. And, the largest organization to fight this disease had a budget of about $1 million, yet colon cancer was the second leading cause of cancer-related deaths in the United States. And basically, we said, this is unacceptable. We have to change it. We have to move forward in making this preventable disease actually preventable and getting more people screened. And that's what we did. Fast forward, it's been 10 years since my mom died. Now the CEO of the largest colorectal cancer advocacy organization in the country. We formed an organization called the Christopher Life Colon Cancer Foundation in her memory, and really have tried to be instrumental in moving this cause. That's obviously so personal to me, personal to you, personal to 147,000 people this year will be diagnosed with the disease, and about 51,000 people will die in the United States. So it's still the second leading cause of cancer-related death, and still a major, public health issue.
And it's very, very preventable. And I know part of the mission that you all have at the Colorectal Cancer Alliance is to empower a nation of allies to work with us to provide support for patients, families, caregivers, and survivors to raise awareness of preventative measures and inspire efforts to fund critical research. But screening and care and cure, those are the 3 strategic goals. Screening is really, really important. That's how I found mine out.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, and these 3 pillars that we have, screen, care, cure, it took us a while to design this, but if you think about it, there's about 20 million people in the United States that are still not getting screened for colon cancer. And, some of those people are young, some of them are old. I think about the percentage of people between the ages of 50 and 54. Only about 49% of those people are getting screened. And I think about my mom. If she had been screened during that time, she'd be alive. She would have been able to see me get married in 2016 and all these different things. So, we think about these 3 pillars, screen, care, cure, and this screening thing, how important it is. And, we're really, in a way, lucky as a disease state that we could almost eradicate this disease, and not for a ton of money either. That's the crazy thing. If people actually went and got their screenings, whether it be a colonoscopy or a FIT or a Cologuard or a blood screening test or those things, we really could end this disease, in the short term. And so that's why we feel like that screening pillar is so incredibly important. And then, you move to the care pillar. You got about 1.4 million Americans right now today living with the disease, and they need our support. They need life-saving treatments. They need clinical trials. They need psychosocial help. They need financial assistance. They need all these things. They need to not feel like they're alone in this fight. And that's kind of what the Alliance does, is we, surround people with love in our online community or our helpline or our buddy program or all these different things. And so, that's really what we were founded on, is that we didn't want patients to kind of be alone. And then the third one is the obvious one. It's the cure pillar, right? The screen, care, cure. And, we've got still, like I said, 1.4 million Americans, and they need an answer. And, unfortunately, right now we're seeing immunotherapy. We're seeing it work for melanoma. We're seeing it work for some other types of cancers like crazy. But unfortunately for colon cancer, it's not. And even targeted therapies, what we call, based on what kind of biomarker you have or what your colon cancer looks like or colorectal cancer looks like under a microscope, we're not seeing the advancements we should. We're not seeing the type of young investigators that should really be, at the forefront of this. And so the Alliance is trying to pour money. We're trying to raise money, obviously, to pour money into, bringing new young investigators into the field, and also funding projects that, will eventually be funded by the NIH. So what happens is the NIH and other large funders, they only fund research projects that are proven. And we've got to get these research projects proven first. So, that's really kind of what we're doing from a screen care cure perspective.
Now, I found some of the stats interesting that I really can't believe that this is hitting youngsters too. I was really, really surprised by that individuals as young as 23 are getting diagnosed with colon cancer, because, I think one of the things that I always thought was, hey, this is more of an, I don't want to say elderly because I'm kind of in that category, but an older, Mark's laughing at me right now. It's more of a seasoned kind of person, someone who has had children who are maybe grown, that they would develop it. But you're finding that even college-age students are developing colon cancer.
Yeah. So the average age of diagnosis is still in the 60s. So the majority of people that are getting this disease are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. But we are seeing about 11 to 12% in a drastic increase in people under the age of 50. So, 49 and under. And you are absolutely right that there are people that are in college. We had 2 people at our national conference last year that were teens. There are more and more people. And one of the things we're trying to figure out is, why is this happening? Why, is it lifestyle? Is it environmental? Is it that actually biologically there's something different? But I can't stress enough for young people that if you are having symptoms, meaning blood in your stool, change in bowel habits, cramping, night sweats, those sorts of things, that you go see your primary care physician. And if you don't have one, you go see somebody, and you have to be your own advocate, because what's happening is that these young people, meaning anybody under the age of 49, they're going to their doctor, they're saying, I have, they have these symptoms, but the doctor is saying, go home, take some Metamucil, or come back and see me in 2 months. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, what that does is it means that when these people are diagnosed, they're diagnosed late stage 4, because they're being dismissed over and over and over again. Our survey that we've done has said about 80% of these young people are being misdiagnosed because the primary care physician or the GI docs think they're never too young, or that they are too young. And, our campaign says you're never too young for colorectal cancer. So, it's a big problem. We're investing this year alone about $1 million in research to see, like I said, is this an environmental piece? Is it we're washing our hands too much? I mean, all this information about coronavirus. But, when we're young and we're trying to build up our microbiome, et cetera, this could be playing a part into potentially getting this disease at a younger age.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I know that people are a little hesitant to talk about their bowels or their rectum or things like that. And when we're not trying to gross people out or talk about stools or those kinds of things, but those are, this is part of your system. And, based upon the things that you were saying, 80% were initially misdiagnosed. This is from a sheet that I got off the website that you have. 73% were diagnosed at a later stage. 50% felt their symptoms were ignored. 62% did not have a family history, and 67% saw at least 2 doctors before diagnosis. And I know family history is a huge thing, maybe a cancer marker that goes there, but really listening to your body and paying attention to those warning signs, because your body tells you things when it's not really. I don't want to use this in off of our show. When your body's not in tune with itself, it will tell you.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, I think that message of being your own advocate, because we don't want to scare people. I mean, the majority of young people are not going to get colorectal cancer, but it is on the rise, and it is, again, if you have the symptoms of blood in your stool, change in bowel habits, cramping, night sweats, et cetera, and they last, for any period of time, probably more than a couple of weeks. Definitely see your primary care physician or GI doc. And don't let them tell you, go home, if you truly feel, like you said, that your body isn't in tune. I think that's a really good message.
You're listening to Arnold Stricker and Mark Langston of St. Louis In Tune. We're talking to the CEO of the Colorectal Cancer Alliance, Michael Sapienza. And Michael, how did you get from being a professional trumpet player to the CEO of the largest national colorectal cancer association in the United States? Other than, I know you talked about, with your mom and that, but you went ahead and you were performing professionally, and you were just almost like there's a stop. I know you're probably still playing. Hopefully you still are.
Yeah, not as much as I'd like. Yeah, it's a good question. So the way that I answer this is interesting. So when you're trained as a musician, you're trained to think outside the box. You are also trained to work with a whole heck of a lot of people. I mean, I performed in an orchestra with 99 other people. And I had to perform within my section, meaning my group of instruments. I had to perform with a bunch of other types of instruments. And once again, I was always taught to never accept okay as the thing that I should go with. I was taught to think outside the box, to think differently, to think creatively, to think, beyond just what was right in front of me. And I'd say, especially when I was starting this organization after my mom's death, that's what I did. It was passion, but it was also, how do we make sure that this cause is really growing? So how do we get a community surrounded by, surrounding this? And that's one of the biggest things. You look at, what Susan G. Komen has done, or what the HIV/AIDS movement did, or what Leukemia and Lymphoma Society has done. What these groups have done is they've garnered a community of people to really rally behind the cause. And I would say, that's one of the things that I did as well early on, is I kind of realized, that's what we have to do. And then from a practical standpoint, I was always involved in the business side of the orchestras I was in. I was on the Young Professional Board. Sometimes, I actually participated in the business side of things, and I was always obsessed with the fundraising. And knowing that, I don't know if you've seen that show Mozart in the Jungle, but
Yes.
They have this saying, do you make the music to make the money, or do you make the money to make the music? And I always knew from a very early on that you had to make the money to make the music so people can enjoy this amazing art form. Well, it's the same thing in this disease state of ours, this colon cancer, colorectal cancer. People say, oh, how do you ask people for money? Well, I say it saves a life. How many people I've sat next to and sat across from as they cry, as they suffer through this horrible disease. And so, we make the money to make our mission happen. And I think that's a really kind of important thing to think about as we move forward.
And one of the ways that money is earned is, there are a lot of benefits things that are going on, but the Undy Run and Walk, which matter of fact St. Louis has participated and I participated in, the 2020 St. Louis Undy Run and Walk is going to be Saturday, March 21st. Or March 21st, yes. And you can check registration deadlines on the Alliance website, which is ccalliance.org, ccalliance.org. And these have been very popular around the country, haven't they, Michael?
Absolutely, yeah. I think we have 19 now across the country. Tens of thousands of people participate in them, and it allows us to also give back locally. We don't only use that money to fund national research or fund our national support programs or screening programs, but we also use those funds to fund local programs as well.
Now, what do you see on the horizon? Do you see research that has shown some promising kind of practices that there's really going to be maybe a cure down the road?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I'm always the optimistic one and the one that dreams, big and says, we've got to have a cure now because there's all these people that are, suffering and patients will come up to me and say, we're counting on you. And I do think that, we're making strides in research, but we need to make much larger strides because what's happening is, cancer treatment is becoming much more personalized or precision, what we call precision medicine. Yet, if you look at, the advancements we've had, maybe even in breast cancer and in lung cancer, and the number of biomarkers that we actually can test for breast cancer and lung cancer, way more than we have for colon, which means that those patients have way more options in terms of living longer, having better and more personalized treatments. And that's where I would say kind of like the real target is right now for colorectal cancer. Can we get more of those personalized or precision medicine treatments that aren't one size fits all, but hey, if we find a subset of 6% that this BRAF, that's the name of one of the mutations, can affect, or can we find 10% of a HER2 positive percentage? Can we look at KRAS? That's a different percentage. So, that takes money, that takes research, it takes time, it takes clinical, willingness for people to participate in clinical trials. But I'd say that's where kind of we're really moving and kind of what the forefront of our research is looking like. And then the only other thing I would say is around, I mentioned earlier, immunotherapy. And we all know, that Jimmy Carter got on it and he went from having a lot of cancer in his body to having virtually none, and actually completely in remission. And we aren't really seeing that in colon cancer, except for probably about 3 to 4% of our patients. And we call, what those patients have is they have hot tumors. And those tumors respond. They respond to immunotherapy. So there's a lot of research right now trying to turn the cold tumors, the other 96% of patients, can we turn their tumors to hot? And then that immunotherapy works. So there's a lot of research going into that as well.
I really appreciate your desire and passion to press this issue and to move forward like you have been. And as a fellow musician, I really appreciated your analogy about when you were in the trumpet section and working with other musicians and what really strengths and skill sets that musicians have to be able to press forward and work with a variety of people. But I really appreciate how you have really moved this organization along to press the issue about a cure, to get more people screened, to make sure that there is care taken with those who are afflicted with colon cancer and rectal cancer. And it's very encouraging to me, having gone through mine. I was telling everybody on the air previously that this is my summer. I have to go back for my colonoscopy after, having annual ones, and then I'm on a 5-year hiatus. So, there's always this little thing in the back of your mind like, well, are they going to find anything this time? And those things kind of kind of play with your mind and your psyche, and
Sure.
it can really do some damage unless you're grounded or you can talk to people who have been through it. But I'm very thankful that things were caught early, and I'm thankful that you have taken on the cause based upon your mom's early untimely death, that you're helping a lot of people around the country with this particular cancer. So, Michael Sapienza, thank you very much. Michael's the CEO of Colorectal Cancer Alliance. That's ccalliance.org. Michael, take care, and we'll be talking to you in the future, okay?
Thank you very much.